I can't give it back to you. But I wanted to have a little bit of a discussion before we start about respiration, about like what the science stuff that we learned in the last bunch of chapters can help us with our performing. Okay? So does anybody have any ideas? No ideas.
Alright.
So everything we just took the test on, right?
Yes.
What does that do, what does that knowledge help us with when we're singing?
Cutting over.
A what?
Cutting over an orchestra.
Yes, that's a good one, right? Because we have to have our singers form it too, right? Okay, good. Anybody else?
Vowel tuning and making them understandable and vowel modification, stuff like that.
Right. And so how does that happen?
What is vowel modification?
Yeah, so like why do we need to do vowel modification?
I remember that chart that we, it's like the spectral, I don't know if it's a it's like that chart with the circles and it has the vowels in them, you know? And
Yes.
they each do different hertz and it depends on where your voice is frequency-wise.
Yeah, so that's like that's where we understand that this is an oo vowel. It was like in that loop. Okay, so like if you had the two formants like in that loop, it sounds like an oo vowel to us. You can actually, there's a program that I have, you can do it to your own voice. I don't have it set up as helpful. And this one's actually on the Google Drive too. And so you can do this, and then, anyway, you put like your input into this, and it shows you what that graph that you were talking about was, with all this. Okay? Cool. Anyway. Sweet, so what else can we learn from that? Like, why am I teaching this class to you?
You know about it?
We can know how our instrument works.
Right, yeah.
So we can teach ourselves when we don't have a teacher every week.
Yeah, that's part of it too. Okay, so we get the vowel modification because the harmonics have to line up with the formants so that we get maximum resonance for it, right? That's a big part of it, why we do vowel modification. And then things like the quarter length resonator and things like that, they're good to know so that you know that what you're doing has effects on the sound that you're producing and why. Do you know what I mean? So if somebody's telling you, oh, you need to have more E-vowel in your high notes, what do they mean? Huh?
It means, you need to get, it means that they're not hearing a certain format or frequency.
Yeah, that your harmonics aren't lining up with your formant as strongly as they can.
So basically, what they're saying is you're a little bit flat meaning certain overtones.
Right. Does that make sense? Is it? Okay. I'm taking this class in pedagogy class after this, and they told us we're not supposed to believe the nod, so don't nod anymore. Because you all went,
Oh, it's like teaching pedagogy?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, right, so it's things like that. So if they're telling you things like you need to put more vowel into it or something, it's really talking about how you don't have it tuned, the shape of your tube tuned right.
So now just because you were asking, this conversation specifically is about the transfer of this knowledge to performing.
Yeah.
So for me, like, and I'm sure you'll understand, like some vowels in a certain range, like say E through G, I would think E, but other times I would think or like some sort of a mixed vowel to achieve the same effect, but those apply to different vowels.
Yeah, so like that's,
A little bit?
if you're thinking the mixed vowel, you're thinking the same thing, because what you're doing is you're changing the formants so that the harmonics line up with it, right?
Yeah, I'm just asking why we might use a certain vowel modifier for certain vowels,
Mm-hmm.
and then a different one for other vowels.
Sure, okay, so that's more of a pedagogic thing, but it really has to do with what you yourself would do when I tell you to sing like an vowel, okay? So if you go up and you sound awesome when I tell you to do that, I'm going to tell you to do that again, right? But if I tell you to do E and that doesn't work for you, sometimes that has the same, that's we're going for the same goal with that, but sometimes it's different. Like sometimes if you say like sometimes they want more chest voice in it and things, so it can be a little.
So it's just kind of how a certain vowel works in a certain person's craft.
Right, and how you use your brain to tune your tube your vocal tract to resonate, right?
Got it.
Yeah, your tube. I don't know, they always call it a tube. It's like.
That was just funny.
Okay, is that clear with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Does it help everybody in understanding how things work in your lessons and
Yes.
things like that? Okay. If it doesn't, please ask me questions, because that's the whole point that they make you take this class. Because no other instruments have to take any kind of class like this. So, yeah.
Can we talk about the idea of the, just real quickly, like the idea of the size of a voice and like what that means quantitatively?
Mm-hmm. So it's usually a color thing, actually.
Okay.
It's not so much amplitude.
Okay.
Mic drop.
What?
I said mic drop,
Yeah.
that was interesting.
I mean, that's really what it is. Because if you're going to go, to be heard over an orchestra, you just need your singer's formant and you have to be heard in a hall, right?
Sorry.
Okay, so if you sing at 120 decibels, which is kind of the average, and so like heavy voices can sing louder than that, but they'll go up to like 126 or something like that, which it's like twice as loud, but it's twice as loud like in certain parts of their voice and things, so it depends. And so if you're gonna talk about somebody with a heavy voice, it usually has to do with their color. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So like my voice would be heavier than Cody's,
right.
but that's like
But not necessarily bigger.
not necessarily louder.
Right, okay.
Okay, because it also all depends upon like how the conductor is conducting the orchestra.
So bigger's a bit of a misnomer.
Yeah, yeah. Like a big voice, people throw that word around, and it like doesn't mean it means color and it means like presence. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So some people like actually have like really big voices, but they sing with it all shut off all the time, and so you can't ever hear it. And you're like, oh, they have like this like dark timbre. They just sound so old, and I don't get it. But then, and things communicate very differently when you're singing on a stage than it does like when you're singing in a room, right? Yeah.
So it's more about like the resonant space.
Mm-hmm. Right. So because ultimately what you're trying to do is maximize your resonance. Because if your resonance is maximized for your voice, you're going to sound like you're supposed to sound. Rather than trying to sing a fox too big or a fox too small or things like that, that happens all the time, right? Yeah. And the other thing that's really important to note with this is your body changes a lot as you get older. So like for me, when I was a master's student, my body was like so much different than it is now. And because like your cartilage ossifies, which means it gets like harder. And you'll know when we go through all this stuff that your larynx is totally made out of cartilage. There's only one bone in it, the hyoid bone. And so it gets harder, and so like you feel things so much differently. Like your body starts to like carry fat in different ways, and a lot of things change as you get older. And so well, you know what I mean? Like you get like chubby, or it like goes to your hips. I don't know. But so like all these things like affect you. And so like when you're 22, 23, 24, something like that, your body is still like very like malleable in a lot of these things. So some people can like make themselves have a big voice, but they're just pushing like really hard, when they really don't have that. They're not letting the resonance do the work, right?
Right.
Okay. So that was probably a little too pedagogic to talk about, but yeah.
That's what he was asking.
So as the voices, or as the larynx is beginning to calcify, like most of us being like
Ossify.
Ossify, thank you. As the larynx is beginning to ossify for most of us, does that mean that it's especially important now in those beginning stages that like we do everything with like a really sustainable technique, so that it's like, in my head it sounds like that could be locked into your voices at your larynx as it ossifies. Is that correct?
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
So most people will tell you, singers that are older that still sing, it gets easier as you get older because your body gets more stable, okay? So there is something to being 22 and trying to do a master's degree and studying 24 hours a day and like trying to sing all the time, and that gets really hard after a while because your body can change and you can wake up one day and be not as hydrated and you're like, Whereas when you're a little bit older, you can tell the effects a little bit better. And also you have like way more experience doing it, right? So you can wake up and when your nose feels super dry and your eyes are like crusty or whatever, you know that you have to like drink like a ton of water because you're super dehydrated, right? But you know that because you've been through the experience of that happening, and then you're like, oh, I tried to sing and it was horrible. Why? Oh, it's because I was jaggered. You know. Okay? So this science stuff does have real ramifications to everything, and just understanding what's working and what you're doing. I know that it seems like we spent like a lot of time going through it, and maybe now it's like, oh, that's just about like changing your vowels to match everything, but you understand like the concepts that are really deep in all of it, and like why it's so important. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
I just have tons of questions.
That's okay.
Okay, so why is it that some voices might like settle as they get older, like some voices going like a certain direction, one up or down? Font wise.
I don't know. That's a complicated question, because a lot of it has to do with getting comfortable with repertoire. So when you're 23 years old, like when I was 23, and I would sing like a high G or something like that, I would do it by like going, you know, and now I can't do it that way because it makes my voice hurt a lot. But I could do it when I was 23 and it sounded really cool, and people like loved it. But I can't do it now because I'm old.
And they're like, you're Italian.
Yeah.
You're not old.
Right, well, and then like everybody was like, oh, well, maybe you're really just like baritone. Also because like, you know, so I'm tall, and they were, you know, thinking like, if I'm gonna get cast in an opera, they'd rather have me do Don Giovanni than Leporello, right? And so it would just be, it really depends on so many different things. And there's so many singers, and everybody's looking for one thing. You know, you like go into an audition, and somebody's like expecting you singing Bella Siccome and Angelo to like look a certain way, you know, rather than and have a certain color to your voice. You know, like we impose those spots onto roles from after they were written, because you know they were written for certain people, right? And they're like, oh, you're like G on that vowel, sounds really great. Let's have you do that, right? So, make sense? Yeah, cool. Awesome. So today we have to talk about respiration. Everybody bring their coloring book.
Wow.
I said that last.
You're going to need
Okay, fine. Well, I put the plate numbers for the pages in here, so you can do that after class. Okay. Cool. So. Have you guys looked at it at all?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool, isn't it? Especially for only like $20. It's like killer. All right, so this stuff is much more like factual and not conceptual than the science stuff, okay? And there's a lot of information that you have to know with it. So I'm just like precursoring all these discussions with that, because we're gonna learn all the muscles and how they work, right? Okay, awesome. Good. So respiratory anatomy. So we have two different kinds of skeletons in our body, right? We have the axial skeleton, which is all this stuff in blue, and then the appendicular skeleton, which is basically our arms and our legs. Yeah. So it's important to know, like, this is where all the good stuff happens, and this is where all the like work happens with our legs and our arms, right? So that's kind of how we use them. All good with that? Okay. I know it's not that complicated. All right, for the spine. So if you have your book, this is plate 2-5. That's where I'm putting it. Okay. So there's 24 vertebrae that we have that are shaped in an S curve on the posterior anterior plane, right? Like this. So that's if I was standing like this, right? Let's see my spine. Good. They grow in sides as they move caudally. What does caudally mean again?
Down.
Towards
Spine or tailbone.
tailbone. Yep. Good. Your butt. Whatever. Good. So this way, right? So they're small up here, and then they go down. Whoa, and get big. There's 4 different sections of them. There's the cervical vertebrae, which are the top 7. These ones right here. So that's basically your neck, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Then there's the thoracic vertebrae, which are these ones, 12 right here.
Why is it called cervical? Like what's the root?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Somebody can Google it.
Okay.
Because I think the joint, I don't remember.
Well, no, because like thoractic's like thorax, that makes sense. Lumbar, just lumbar. coccyx, cause like your cockle bone is like your tailbone.
Yeah, right. No, totally. Okay, somebody Google it. I'll write it down. Or something. Is somebody Googling it?
I am.
Cody Bowers on the job. Good, so thoracic, right? That's our thorax. That's your chest. And then lumbar, which is your back. That's like your lower back. So it's everything like between your rib cage and your hips. And then your sacrum, which are actually 5 vertebrae. They're all fused together. Okay. And then your coccyx. Tiny lower bone. That's your tailbone. Right there.
The cervix comes from the Latin cervic, which means neck.
Neck.
So then why?
Because it probably looks like a neck.
It's the neck of your uterus.
No, that makes sense.
All right. Cool. We all good? Yeah, we're all gonna learn weird things about our bodies, okay? So the top 2 cervical vertebrae is what pivots and rotates the skull, okay? So the atlas and the axis, these are what's on top. This one sits on top of this one. And it makes it so we can do this and this, right? I tried to find good animations of this, but it's really hard to. So like these sit in there. Do you know what I mean?
No.
These little pieces right here,
Yes.
they fit in there.
In where?
These little holes.
Oh, of this thing fits in that thing.
Oh.
They're the top 2 vertebrae
They're like.
in your skull.
Yep.
Okay,
Holding hands.
they're holding hands. Which makes it so you can do this, because the other parts of your spine don't do this, right? Not as much as that one does, right? Okay, cool. Everybody got those? So remember, I'm going to test you guys on this. I'm going to make you be able to identify pictures of these things and tell me what they do. Okay?
Okay.
You don't have to know like the origin and insertions of the muscles, but they immensely help things. Okay?
When you say you're gonna show us pictures, and we're just telling you like, this is the atlas, it does this is the axis.
Yep.
Not necessarily all the little guys.
No.
Okay, cool.
Like what's up here? Okay, right. So the atlas axis sits on top of it. You don't have to know all this little stuff right here. A lot of times I get these pictures from like all weird places because there's like one really good one that has like tons of stuff labeled that you don't have to know.
Right on.
And you'll see in the slides, I like color code things that you really have to know. Okay. It'll be very clear from talking about it.
Thank you.
Which one goes on top of the other one?
This one goes on top of this one.
Oh, because it's like Atlas carrying the world.
Yeah,
Got it.
Atlas carrying Hitler.
something like that. Okay, good. So the processes, you have to know these parts of the subject. And this is in the book, in the Nenner's book, okay? The spinous process is the posterior projection from the vertebrae where the muscles in the back are connected, which is right here. Notice how I wrote it in red and circled it in red. Right? Tommy, I'm answering your question.
Oh, sorry.
So this one's in red and this is where it is, right? Because it's circled in red. Okay, so that's something you have to know.
Thank you.
Great, okay, good. Transverse process, 2 lateral processes on each vertebra. They're these ones right here. Okay, so we've all seen them. These are the ones that like go, that's our spine. When you feel the little bumps in behind, you're feeling these guys. And the transverse process are there. That's a lot of like back muscles attached to those that make it so you can do this and stuff like that. Yep. It's basically kind of like all these hooks that you can like.
Do your ribs attach to those?
No. They're in here. Okay, so sacrum, ilium, and pubis and ischium. Okay, so this is your hip bones, right? So that's like where your coccyx is back here, and that's your tailbone, and this is where the spine goes up there, right? And that's the hip bone you can feel like right in front. Like if you squeeze on your sides, that's your iliac crest.
Your ilium?
Yep. Your pubis bone and your ischium. And your sacrum's the whole thing. That's what it's called. Okay? You guys got that?
The whole.
Alright, neutral spine. This is how your spine should look, right? So it should be curved like an S.
So, question.
Yep.
So we saw the picture of the spine before, and the last things were called the sacrum, right?
Yep.
And so that's just what we saw. Is it the same thing that's green on the next one?
Yep.
That's where the sacrum is?
Because this is your hip bones, right? So if you feel your hips,
Yeah.
that's your iliac stuff right here. Okay? And all your guts sit inside there.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. And this is another, those are all the vertebrae we talked about before, right?
Yeah.
Good. So remember that you have to know, so like when we label them, okay, so if we're gonna label our cervical vertebrae, it's like C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, C7. And then we go to thoracic and it's T1, T2, all the way up to 12, and lumbar, right?
L. R. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sweet. All right, so the rib cage. This is in your Nenner's book too, so remember to go back and look at this. Okay. The 12 different pairs of ribs, right? They're not different for men and women. Sorry guys, women don't have less than men. Okay. Ribs 1 through 4 connect here through the costal cartilage. See that?
Yes.
Good. And then 5 through 10 connect through this cartilage. And then 11 and 12 are free floaters down there. So you can feel those ones in your back. You can feel like the ends of them, right? So if I gave you a picture, this picture, and circled these top 4, you'd be like, they're those ones, and they're connected through costal cartilage,
Is
right?
there a name for the other cartilage, or is it just?
Well, no, because this one's so this one's connected through this cartilage right here, right? And so see how these ones like kind of like tree branch into it?
Oh, okay.
That's what that means. Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So these ones are a lot stronger because they're not like connected by one touch. That's why up here it's always like super, and this moves more, right? Okay, good. All right, sternum. This is your breastbone, right? We all feel that right there. It's got 3 parts: your manubrium, corpus, and xiphoid process. So your xiphoid process is this little bone that sticks out the bottom of it. And certain animals have things that like attach to that, and it's like super important. But in us, it's not that important. And a lot of times when you're doing CPR to people, you break it. Just so you know. And it's super flexible, right? So if you think about like if you're pushing in somebody's chest, it does move a lot considering how much bone structure is there. Okay. So that's also important because when we breathe, we expand our ribcage, right? And that's part of where it expands from. So everybody got those 3? Okay. Good. Now the lungs. So the lungs are connected to the thorax by pleurae. It means a serous water permeable membrane, right? So it's basically like a cloth or something like that. You can think about that. When the thorax moves, so do the lungs. So that it's attached to the inside of your ribs, right? It's like a big bag that blows up. Oh look, I have a bag here. Like this, right? I brought marshmallows for a demonstration later. Okay, we're not there yet. Good, so, and this is what your lungs look like, right? Everybody got that? I know, this part isn't too complicated. All right, Boyle's Law, this is more math that you don't really have to do numbers for. Okay, so PV equals K, that's what Boyle's Law is, right? So pressure equals volume and the constant of the value system, okay? Pressure and the volume are inversely proportional, that is basically what this is just saying. So, if you take volume and you decrease it, what happens to the pressure? Goes up, right? And if you take volume and you increase it, what happens to the pressure? Good. And so if you have pressure and then you increase the volume, what happens? Sorry, I just asked the same question twice, didn't I? So if you have something, if you increase the pressure, what happens to the volume?
It goes up.
Right, yeah, good. So it's inverse. This is what this is for.
If you increase the pressure, the volume goes down.
Taking up less space.
Increase.
So if we take the marshmallow and we stick it in the tube,
I like where this is going.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what's gonna happen to the marshmallow? It's small, right?
Oh my gosh!
Just a little guy.
Wait, do it again. This is amazing. I love marshmallows. This is so exciting.
Science.
See the trick?
Science. Must be science.
So why does that happen?
Science.
Because
pressure
the
is
internal
small.
pressure is greater since there is a smaller amount of volume for the air to exist in.
Right, exactly.
Now, when you decrease the pressure though, like, shouldn't the marshmallow expand just a little bit? No?
Huh? Yeah,
Like what?
that's what I'm gonna do now.
It's expanding.
Okay, so if I pull it open,
Well,
Yeah, okay, nice.
it did.
Wow.
Thing that you said it was gonna do.
Because it's air puff.
because it's full there, right? So it might be better if I take this.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, look at it get all big. Oh,
Right.
nice.
Okay. Cool, right? So that's Boyle's law. Now, that's how our lungs work, right? So if we had our lungs, right, what is this part?
Your diaphragm.
Yeah, right?
Well done.
This is the diaphragm.
That's not what my diaphragm is.
So,
I get Boyle.
so if I take my diaphragm and I flex it, right, so I'm down, and I pull it down, I decrease the pressure, increase the volume, and so air goes in, right? Because if this is open, the air comes in,
Yeah.
right? Because there's less pressure. So the atmospheric pressure is actually what is pulling the air into your lungs, and not your diaphragm going, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Hmm.
Okay. I hope that's super clear.
Yes.
And we get all the marshmallows at the end of class.
I love it!
Because I only need one.
I
Okay.
could have just brought you a marshmallow.
I forgot. I had to go to CVS this morning. Okay, when volume expands, we breathe in, pressure goes down, inhalation to create a vacuum, right? Because that's what happens. We create a vacuum when the pressure goes down. It's not a whole vacuum, but there's less pressure inside our lungs than there is outside. So the pressure in the outside world pushes the air into our lungs.
Yeah, it does.
Huh?
Hmm?
What'd you say?
It does.
It does, yes. Okay, good. That's how we fill our lungs with air. When the pressure in the lungs is less than atmospheric pressure, the air enters the lungs in order to fill the vacuum. And our lungs do the same thing as sucking our straw. The tongue acts as the diaphragm. So like when we're sucking through a straw, you know how you use your tongue to go, right? That's like your diaphragm. It's the same thing. As Jenny does it with her water bottle.
I was testing it out.
Right, okay. So with the lungs, we have two different lungs, right? We have the right lung and the left lung. This is the right lung, because if I'm standing here, it's on the right side, right?
Oh, good.
So your right lung actually has 3 lobes. 1, 2, 3. Yeah? And then your left lung has 2 lobes because there's more space for the heart.
Oh.
What is a lobe?
A piece.
It's like a piece.
Like, is there a division between the pieces?
Yeah. Okay, so we'll talk about this in a second, but you see how the bronchial tubes come out here?
Yes.
All these red ones go into this lobe, the yellow ones go into this one, and the blue ones go into the bottom one.
So they're like 3 little bags.
They're sectionalized so that if you hurt one, you have more. So if you get a like hole in it or something like that, you don't die right away.
That's pretty amazing.
Right away.
Right. That's I mean, so so that's like part of like how we've evolved to like work on that stuff,
I
right?
love it.
Cool. So we actually have like 5 different bags of
That's
these.
not what it looks like at all.
It's Valentine's Day soon, right?
It's very cute.
Yeah. I made that one. Okay, anyway.
You did? It's a good drawing.
Okay, trachea. Trachea is this part, so this is our larynx, right? Adam's apple, right there. Thyroid cartilage, all that junk. So our trachea goes down here. Then we get our bronchial tubes, which go out from that, right here.
Just get infected.
Primary bronchi, that's what that is. Notice it's the color, same color, right? And then we get the bronchi branches. Those are the 3 branches that we talked about, right? And then they split up into little things, which end up at the aoli and the alveolar sacs over here, right? And then we get the little alveoli, these little tiny things that
So
hold
those
the
are
air.
at the end of the bronchioles and tertiary bronchi stuff?
Yep, so this all starts, we get the trachea, bronchial tubes, bronchi, alveolar sacs, alveoli, are the little things, okay?
Great,
So you should be able to tell me that this is how the air gets into our lungs,
got it.
okay? In this order. And if you notice, we actually have like 1 million of these per lung. There are tons of them.
Wow, no wonder I'm so good at breathing.
Okay? Everybody got that?
Yes.
Awesome. Good, breathing. Inspiration is breathing in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Muscles of inspiration increase the lung volume, right? But this is what we're going to learn, the muscles of inspiration and the muscles of expiration, right? So inspiration, increase the lung volume. That is their purpose. That is what we're learning them about. Expiration is breathing out, and the muscles of expiration do what? Decrease. So that we go. And because when we decrease our lung volume, we make the subglottic pressure go up so we can phonate, right? Clear, everybody?
Yes.
Awesome. Oh, we're doing great. I gotta see what slide I'm on. Oh, 15. Okay, primary muscles of inspiration, diaphragm and external intercostals. Okay? So if I tell you, ask you what the primary muscles of inspiration are, you say diaphragm, intercostals, external intercostals. Okay. Do you guys know what your external intercostals are?
You're out here.
No?
The intercostals that are on the outside.
Your
your rib cage.
Open and out, right?
Hmm?
Yeah, pull them out.
Well, okay, so it has to do, what do inspiration muscles do?
They
Increase the lung capacity.
Increase the lung capacity, right? So then what do they have to do? If they do this, they increase your lung capacity, right?
Yeah.
Good, awesome. You're right, I was just making
No.
sure you. Alright, now the diaphragm. I will have you know, so on your papers that I had you give me in the beginning, a lot of people said that your diaphragm is an involuntary muscle. And that's true, but we can control it. Okay?
But
Can
how?
we control the muscle, can we control the muscles and therefore like the structure around the diaphragm?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, so, because involuntary muscles are made up of smooth muscle fibers, right? Which we learned about in last class.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure was very interesting. So smooth muscle fibers are involuntary. That means that they have like nerves that they like fire normally. And so that's why like if we're breathing, we don't have to consciously think about breathing. But we can control our diaphragm. We can decide, oh, we're gonna breathe in now. Okay, right?
Is that controlling the diaphragm? That's not controlling the diaphragm directly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a big diaphragm.
Mhm.
Well, and because when we're breathing out, the diaphragm doesn't like try to breathe again when we're like singing super long phrases, right? So it's not 100% involuntary, that's my point, okay? Right? So that we have control over it.
Just as a,
Why do you all look so
for
confused?
the sake of discussion, though, like the muscles that your brain is sending nerve impulses to is not your diaphragm, but rather your expiration muscles and inspiration muscles.
Which your diaphragm is.
Your diaphragm too.
This is very confusing.
What are you confused about?
I'm confused about why there's a but after the statement the diaphragm is an involuntary muscle.
Because you can control it, you can like choose to breathe, but if you decide like to stop thinking about your breathing, you're
You
gonna
can
keep
control it
breathing.
indirectly. You can't like send a nerve impulse to your diaphragm and flex it. Like,
Yeah, that's what you contracting it is breathing it in.
Right, so you indirectly control
Yeah, you control your diaphragm,
it. Okay.
right? So you can't, but it can be involuntary because you all can sit there and breathe while we're talking about this stuff,
Or
right?
sleep.
Right? Or sleep or whatever, right? But I mean, the thing is like you can decide, I'm not gonna let my diaphragm breathe back in, right? So you can breathe all your air out, go, and then stay there.
But it doesn't change the fact that it's an involuntary muscle and you can't control it.
You can
You
control
control
it.
other things that affect what the diaphragm does.
No, you control your diaphragm. You can, it's a muscle, you can like breathe with it. But if you was to stop thinking about it, like if you were to hold your breath, you would pass out and then you would start breathing again.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. So you have control over it, okay? It's weird, because it's like voluntary and involuntary at the same time. Anyway, okay, so diaphragm, second largest muscle by mass in the human body. Your glutes are number one.
Yeah.
So it's enormous, right? which that's a really big muscle if you think about it. Like, it's shaped like an upside down bowl with a bump in the middle of it, right? So it's kind of U-shaped. Do we have a better picture? Yes, like this. Okay. So, it's the floor of the thorax, so it's what's under our lungs and our heart, right? Okay. And so, like, our heart is about this, and it completely separates our body, right? So the only things that go through are the vena cava, which is it's a blood vessel, and the aorta is another one, and then the esophagus, which swallows all our food. That's the only stuff that goes through our diaphragm. Kind of crazy, huh?
Mm-hmm. And that's all tendon, that the white business
Yep.
up in there.
Right.
Wow.
What the crap? Gross.
So what are those tendons like? Okay, I'm sorry.
I
Do
keep showing
tendons
that.
attach muscle to bone or muscle to muscle?
Both.
Okay, and those are like muscle to muscle guys?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's just in the middle. Okay.
sweet.
Can you?
Yeah, we're gonna finish talking about this one. Okay,
Sorry.
so there's 3 different plates that you can look at in the next book. There's actually a really great one I'm gonna show you right now, because a bunch of you don't have it. That's not it. That's not it. Okay. Well, okay, this one's pretty good. Okay. So there's this one. You can see the diaphragm's right here, right? And this is like your kidneys and intestines, everything else is down here. And this is where our lungs go. And that's like where the heart would be, right? Cool. And so then there's also this one, which is like looking at front with the cuff, and the diaphragm's up here. Cool. So it's really big.
Guts.
It's just beneath the sternum, so if you feel like where your sternum bone is, it's like right here, right? Shaped like a boomerang, diaphragm is only bisected by the aorta, vena cava, and esophagus. Yep, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Everybody got this stuff? So I've asked you about the diaphragm, you can tell me these things, right?
Yes.
Upside down bowl, floor of the thorax, what goes through it? Things like that. I think, and it's really important for you guys to know, I want you to be very specific about how you talk about these things, because when you go out into the real world and people ask you questions about singing, you should be able to tell them like what's right about it. Do you know what I mean? When people are like, breathe with your diaphragm, what do they mean?
I mean,
I guess they would.
Well, we'll talk about that later. But I mean, so you'll know these things, like how it like separates your entire body, right? Only like 3 different tubes go through. You know, you get 2 blood vessels, 1 blood vein, blood vessel, and then your esophagus, right?
push your viscera down as far as they will go and control their release back.
Something like that, right? But right, so that's what's happening. So that's another reason why this class is important, because there's tons of people that like go out and talk about singing and they don't know anything. Good. All right, intercostal muscles, ribs.
Yeah.
Human ribs.
So this is our ribs. So when you eat ribs, you're actually eating their intercostals.
Yummy.
You want the heart too.
Barbecue sauce.
All right, so let's get over this so we can get past the gross picture, right? Okay, so we get intercostals. There's 3 different kinds, right? Okay. I know we're just talking about muscles of inhalation right now, but so the external intercostals are on the outside. Here, how they attach right there. Then the internal are right here, and then the innermost are in the back. Okay, that's a really good picture of them. Just FYI. It's like the best one you can find to explain them. So if these ones flex, they pull your ribcage out, right? Because, and then if these ones flex, they squish them together, which is exhalation, right? Decreasing lung volume.
Cool.
Yep.
What do the innermost intercostals do?
We'll find out later.
I like this one.
So the external intercostals, right? These are also muscles of
Inhalation!
inhalation because they do what?
Expand the
Big,
ribs.
big, big.
They make your lung volume do what?
Increase.
Yes! Awesome. You guys are so smart. Okay, so we got one turning around. These are from Wikipedia, actually, just so you know. The Wikipedia stuff on the human anatomy is actually awesome. If you ever like have a question about some, Dr. King says some weird muscle, you don't quite know what he's talking about, go look it up on Wikipedia. They'll give you like awesome pictures and talk about it. It's really good. Oh. Good, so they're like this, they're in between all the ribs on the outside like this. And they kind of go like this. So they even go behind in the back, right? All the way around the rib cage. Cool. Awesome. They're on the outside of the rib cage, they lift up and out. So their origin is on the rib above, on the inferior border, which means on the inside. And then insertion is on the rib below. Okay? So they. Because when we do, with our origin insertion, what pulls to what?
The insertion pulls to the
Right. So, if my origin is on the rib above, and my insertion is below, what's moving?
The below one.
Goes up, right? Yep, because we move towards the origin. Cool.
Sweet.
So origin insertions are really good to know, you guys. Just so you know.
But we don't have to. But
You
they
don't
could
have
be
to.
helpful.
You should really know it though.
Okay.
I won't test you, because there are certain ones that it's, when we start talking about the tongue stuff and all that,
It'll help pull off.
that's when you want to know.
Okay.
Okay? So you really should just know the origin insertions. Okay, resemble an upside down V with the oblique angle going towards the center of the body. Right. Pull up.
Wait, I thought you said it was an upside down V.
Yeah.
You just went like that. Oh.
I
So
can't
it's
do it
like
right.
a, it's like a
this.
Christmas tree.
Yeah, right. There, that's better.
I like that.
I'll use that for next class. Alright. Primary muscles of inhalation. So inhalation or inspiration. What does inspiration do?
Inhale.
With our lung volume?
Increases.
Increasing.
lung volume.
It increases.
Do you mean expiration?
Oh.
Yeah, I do. Shoot.
Oh.
Guys, I screwed up.
Oh, so your picture doesn't even make sense.
Oh my god.
It doesn't.
You were not like,
Oh,
Exponent.
There should be a
I like
picture of
the
a dead guy.
Oh no, the picture was deleted.
Fixed it. Okay.
yeah.
Alright, internal intercostals. This is what happens when you're like. This
When you're a
presentation is
musician.
70 slides long. I'm just telling you.
oh.
Okay. Oh. Yeah, because we're learning all the muscles of respiration. Because there's these are they're the big ones, and then there's like a million little ones. Just yeah. No, it's good because they all have effects on how we use our voice, right? That's why we have to know all of them. You have to know all the parts in order to know how it works. All right, so we get internal intercostals, right? Those are the inside ones of the ribs. We talked about those. Yep. Muscles of the abdomen. We get external obliques, internal obliques, rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis, and quadratus lumborum. Okay. We will stop when we get through this stuff today. So if we get done early, okay. Oh, okay. Internal intercostals. So this looks really similar, right? But do you see how they're going the other way? Like you can see it right
They're
there.
like a V.
Yeah, but they're the other way
I mean, no.
What do you?
because they're a V this way.
Yeah, the other one was a Christmas tree.
Yeah, they're a V that way.
Yeah. So this one's an actual V.
Yes. They go like this,
Yeah.
right? Because these ones do what to the lung volume?
Decrease.
Decrease it, right? They go. So if you
Follow the
feel,
shape of the ribs.
In
Huh?
all the
They
ribs.
follow the shape of the
Yeah,
ribs.
how
Yeah.
are you-
And the
you
other
don't see
ones
that on that, that's
Go
in front
like
of it.
against the angle of the ribs. No? Sorry.
the ribs don't have a name.
Well, so to the sternum.
Yeah, technically.
I don't know, probably this way.
Yeah, so the other ones do upside down V, right? So they go away,
This way.
yeah, like this. There's what you can, they go like this, right? And the other ones do like they're in your pockets. Right? Like this.
Yeah.
Good. And that one's on a plate in your dentist's book, okay? Good. Rib muscles on the inside of the rib cage. They run obliquely away from the midline and crisscross the external intercostals. The origin is in the lower rib and the insertion is in the upper rib. So if the origin is lower and the insertion's up, we pull the insertion down, right?
Yeah.
Right, so we're contracting
Oh, that's very
our
interesting.
rib cage. I can't tell if you're being sarcastic, Chelsea.
I'm not being sarcastic at all.
Okay, awesome. Alright, pull downward and compress the rib cage, lowers the volume of the ribs, or of the lungs. There's more anterior than posterior. The primary motion is in the front of the body and not in the back. So there's more of them up here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay,
There's more muscle mass here to do the
to push.
than there is on the sides and back. Okay.
Cool.
So if somebody tells you to breathe into your back, they're not necessarily telling you about using these muscles, but make sure that you expand enough so that that comes out.
back.
You can't breathe into your back.
But you can feel it.
You can never bring it along.
Oh, here we go. Good. So they're voluntary muscles, and they're not really good for singing unless you need the final push of air. So they don't really help a lot with singing, even though they're primary muscles of exhalation. They're only for to go like the last like little bit. Okay. What?
So, when we talk about like the importance of staying expanded,
Mm-hmm.
the muscles that we're using to stay expanded are primarily the muscles of inspiration.
Yes.
Those are the ones that we're consciously manipulating while we are exhaling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because we're going to use the other ones more, the ones we're about to talk about.
So basically, when we're doing that, we're expanding our ribs, but the diaphragm is still coming back in or relaxing,
Okay.
I guess, or whatever.
So the diaphragm, because muscles only contract, right?
Right.
Okay.
The
So the diaphragm does not push air out.
No, it just goes down.
That's true.
There is like, it is like a fetish of these people to talk about how the diaphragm does not push air out. Like it's like insane. Like all these books, like, because there was like, you know how there's like all these voice teachers that talk about like using your diaphragm to like breathe and like push out. It only contracts. It can only inhale air, right? Okay, and then it relaxes, and then you use other muscles to push the air back out.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, we're all in agreement with that.
So when the diaphragm is pushing air back out, it.
So the diaphragm cannot push air out.
I'm dead.
Like they've done extensive studies on that. Like you think like all that like sound stuff we talked about, you think that they do that first, but no, they like tried to like stick needles in people's to see if their like nerves would fire and everything. Yeah, it was insane. Okay. Good. So this one's alright, there's a really good version in this.
Bunch of different layers of
You all are gonna go back and draw these in, right? That's your
Yes.
homework. Awesome. Good. So this one's really great because it actually cuts it this way to look at how everything connects. And because everything like runs in between each other and everything, it gets really complicated, right? Okay. So check that out when you do homework. Cool. So the muscles of the abdomen. These are muscles of expiration, right? So they're primary muscles of expiration too, which these are like, they're more important than the internal intercostals that we just talked about, okay? They depress the thorax to reduce volume of the lungs, right? So that's what we're doing. It's like when we do sit-ups, right? It's like that with our voice. Or compress abdominal viscera and push up into the underside of the lungs. So right, so when we breathe and our belly goes out because our diaphragm pushes down on our abdominal viscera, which is like all the guts down here, and our belly comes out, then we use our abs to go and squeeze that to push it back, the air back out, right? It is just like this thing, right? Cool. Awesome. I'm trying not to believe they're not. It's not working. Good. So you get external obliques. These ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Internal obliques.
Yep.
These ones. So you notice how they're different layers inside. Okay. It's kind of like the intercostals. There's like the ones on the outside and the ones on the inside.
Like cakes.
The rectus abdominis, up and down. Transverse abdominis, they go in this way, right? And those ones are really hard to feel because they're really deep. You can only feel them if you like put your finger like in between your hip bone, like way down, and then like flex. and then you can feel like what they feel like. And quadratus lumborum, they're not on there. But, sorry. Good. So rectus abdominis, that's this one. That runs vertically, right? Up and down.
Right.
External obliques, internal, that one, and then transverse. Yeah?
Right.
Sweet. And then there's this thing called the aponeurosis. Aponeurosis? I think it's aponeurosis. I don't remember. Sorry. Sheath that surrounds the abdominals, it's a fibrous tissue. So this is like it's like a bag that holds all your abs in. Okay? Kinda. And it allows, so because there are the different layers on them, it allows them to move and they don't like intersect with each other. Right?
Right.
Okay.
And this is keeping it all in.
So that they stay in the same places and everything.
So is it just connective tissue? Or is it more advanced?
It's like it lets them be separate from each other. Okay.
I'm sorry, so each layer has this around it?
Yeah.
Or this is just like oh, okay, so it's just like a blanket covering all of them?
Yep.
Got it.
And so there's the linea alba, which is the white line that goes down here, right? So if you want to have a six-pack, that's what you have to have showing, right? It's a strong fibrous connection that connects the xiphoid process to the pubic bone. So it goes from down here to up here. Because without that, we wouldn't be able to do this. Because we have to have something that connects to pull it down.
Right.
Yeah?
Will we talk about the pelvic floor during this slideshow?
I don't know. What do you mean?
The pelvic floor and the muscles, those muscles as they relate to inspiration and singing?
What muscles? These are the muscles in the pelvic floor.
Okay.
Which other ones will we talk about?
I don't know.
Oh. Okay, so when you breathe in and they talk about how you have to like breathe low to the pelvic floor, right?
Relax the pelvic floor, et cetera, yeah.
They're talking about these muscles.
Okay.
Because if these ones are contracted, you can't breathe as much as you can, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Okay. I can try to explain something more, but I don't know. Good, so the rectus runs through the abdominal aponeurosis right here, right? And the external, internal, and transverse connect to it on the sides. Yeah? Cool. You can find like videos of it and stuff if you wanna like find like really gross pictures. If you think of the ones I should hear gross. Alright, so the rectus abdominis, right? These guys. Origin, pubic bone, down here. And insertion, ribs 5 through 7, and the xiphoid process, which is the rib cage, right? So what does that pull to what? The origins are pubic bone, it pulls the ribs where?
Down.
Down. That's like a sit-up, right?
Yeah.
That's the exact muscle you use to do a sit-up. Pulls the rib cage to the bone of the sit-up motion. I guess I wrote this all up there, why am I asking you about it? Just reading it. It helps for six-pack. Six-packs aren't good for singers because if you have a six-pack, it means that you're not relaxing your muscles.
No, if you have a
Actually.
six-pack, it means that your body fat as well.
Yeah, and you're not relaxing your muscles enough.
That's if you're flexing though. I think a six-pack isn't dependent on whether or not you're flexing, it's dependent on what your body fat is.
Yeah, but so like if we can see that on stage, it's not a good thing probably.
No, I disagree. I think it's about like whether or not like, if you can see like muscle separation, the muscles don't have to be flexed, they can be relaxed. It's about like how much body fat you have in relation to how much muscle mass you have.
Okay. I think that most people haven't think about it in relation to flexing it.
Yeah, which is just incorrect.
Right. Yeah.
It's another misnomer that has bad connotation.
So like having like that like thing, it's not so good for you, right? And having the tension in those muscles is not is really
Right, but you can have muscle mass and still be relaxed. Like watch Michael Phelps when he's like about to about to dive in, like his body is just totally loose.
Oh sure, totally. Yeah.
That's what she said.
But I also think that like a lot of like when it relates to singing, it's a lot more difficult.
Right,
You know
it's
what I
just a common, I just think that it's just a common misconception, like especially in this field, because people they just frankly like don't know. Like if you watch, like let's just take a famous example, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like in training videos, he just is like total, like if he shakes his arm, like the muscle is totally relaxed and loose. Muscle mass, just because you have muscle mass doesn't mean that it's tense. It
Right.
can be relaxed.
Yeah.
But I think that it is.
But
especially
I mean,
important.
okay, so I went and saw Nathan Gunn sing Pearl Fishers.
Nathan Gunn's, I mean,
That's where that's what I'm talking
he's
about.
a shit singer and he's not that, and frankly, like, he's not in very good shape.
I bet, but you know what I mean? So,
Right. Yeah.
that's what I'm talking
And
about.
certain people, and I totally agree with you, but like certain people like Nathan Gunn give fitness as it relates to singing a bad name.
Totally.
But it is
And so-
totally possible, I think we should acknowledge, in theory, for a person to have a body fat level and muscle mass for a six-pack, quote, six-pack, and still sing well.
Yes.
If
There are
you-
also, I'm just gonna tell you though, there are also tons of papers that are written that like having body fat, like at a certain level, actually puts body fat in your vocal folds. And it helps them work better.
That's interesting. So, but if, I think
Amazing, I'm never working on.
it is just essential for a person to be able to relax their muscles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's the most important part when we're talking to this stuff. But I mean, like, I think that if your body fat level is that low, sometimes it's probably not the best for your voice, especially with like in your vocal folds and everything.
Yeah.
It's not like, I mean, you can totally do it, you know.
But if you get like 7%, that's just not really good for you anyway.
Right, exactly. You know,
What's the body fat percentage that starts having an effect on your vocal?
I don't know. They talk about like how having the fat in the muscles like helps them because well then they're thicker, right?
Uh-huh.
And so they have like more wave and flex to them. I don't know. I'll have to look it up or something like that. Or you can look it up when you.
I
when
would
you
just be
take it.
curious as to like why would body fat be found in like what is it? Is there any other like part of your body that is similar to the vocal folds? In terms of like, I don't know, like would body fat be found in the lungs if it's found in the vocal folds?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Well,
Well, because the vocal folds are made out of muscle,
Okay,
so they have fat in them.
aren't the lungs also made out of muscle?
No, they're made out of pleura.
What's like around? I guess I would just be curious to see like the distribution of body fat.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it comes from they're trying to figure out why like Pavarotti is an awesome singer and things.
But Mario Delmonico and Franco Corelli were also awesome singers.
Yeah, I know.
And Cesare CAP.
And so it's a lot of speculation, I think, and I think there are some papers that are written about it, but it's kind of. I mean, generally, y'all should just be in shape, kind of. You know what I mean?
and not
Or
like,
and not like walking around like Nathan Gunn. Yeah, right. That's my point. Okay, good. It has 4 bellies, right, that can be contracted separately. So we can do this. Oh, I've got this really cool video to show you in a second.
Yeah.
Right. So you all know. So like muscles can have bellies to them, which means they're like sections of it.
yep.
So we get 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, right? And watch. So this is like a belly dancer doing an awesome thing with her belly.
Right.
I don't remember where this starts. I can make this sound work.
Jessica Bonnet.
She's like super famous. I don't.
Dana Alanera.
Okay, lady, come on. Yeah, so they're like coins, and she like rolls them over her stomach. Here.
Oh.
That's how you digest food.
So much independent control over each.
Of course, she's true.
Pretty awesome, huh?
Oh my goodness.
Oh my
You
God.
gotta be kidding. Sorry.
Oh,
Oh, a second one?
uh-huh.
Oh.
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 Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
What?
No whammy.
Oh.
No whammy.
My God.
We should get her for the Super Bowl party.
True, dude.
That's
Okay. So you can have like,
Also aware-
your apps can have like really amazing tiny control over everything, right? So if you think about like, we use those muscles to control our breath pressure when we sing, right? So we have that kind of control, it's just different, right?
I'm sure I don't have that kind of control. Whoa.
Right?
Oh, I do. That's really
Look at that. How does one train for that?
Practice.
She's like world famous for that, apparently. So I don't even remember her name. Okay, external oblique muscles, these ones right here, right?
Yeah.
So we were just talking about the, which muscle?
The rectus abdominis.
Rectus abdominis, right? Which
Yeah.
makes you do sit-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this one's the side. Right there. Okay. Hand run downwards towards the midline of the body, so they go like this. Like if your hands are in your front pockets, they're that kind of V. Yep. The origin is the ribs 5 through 12 up here. And the insertion is the iliac crest and abdominal aponeurosis, right? So if I have my origin up here and my insertion down here, what am I pulling?
pulling that.
Yep. So that's, it makes me do this. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like that.
And we can also use those to do what to our lung volume? Decrease. Awesome. You understand? That's important, huh?
There are a lot more muscles involved with decreasing than increasing.
Yeah, but remember that these are like a big set. And there's secondary ones too. We haven't talked about the secondary
Oh.
ones yet. We'll talk about those on Tuesday.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's, I remember when I told you that this is a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why it takes 3 days.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Internal oblique, right? So these are inside of the one we just talked about, right? Good. Perpendicular to external oblique, they're grabbing like your pecs like this, so they run that way. Origin is the iliac crest and the inguinal ligament between the iliac crest and the pubic bone. So it's like this ligament that goes from here. Insertion is in the aponeurosis and ribs 9 to 12. Good. So if our origin is down here and our insertion's up here, which way did we go?
Down.
Yep. So it's kind of the same as the external obliques, right? But the muscle fibers run a different way, so they get more control over everything. Yeah? Awesome. Okay, transverse abdominis. Run horizontally. Origin insertion is the aponeurosis, back, and the ribs, right? So they do this. They're isometric muscles, so they don't change length when you flex them. They just get harder.
Weird.
Okay. They support your back and your posture. So if you want to have strong transverse abdominis, that's what makes you be able to stand up straight. And it makes your core really, really rigid. So like if you're doing like, I don't know, bench presses or something like that, you want to have like that.
You need your core for everything.
Right, exactly. But you know, like heavy lifting things, that kind of stuff. Like, or if you do planks, you do a lot of transverse.
Anything
abdominis stuff.
involved in like your body stabilizing.
Right,
Including pooping.
but these ones stabilize, that's like their main job. Rather, the other ones are like motion more, right? And these ones are really stabilizing because they make it really rigid. They're deep as opposed to superficial, which means that they're inside, right? Remember when we talked about the location words last class? And the most interior abdominal muscles, and it's like a corset that like keeps you, right? We good with that?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, quadratus lumborum. I think this is the last one. So this is on the in the Netter's book too. So the rectangular quadratus, right? Name to the shape. In the lumbar region of the spine, so these are in the back, like right here. And it's the thing that makes you be able to do this. Origins of the iliac crest in the back, anterior, meaning in the back, right? Insertion, lower rib, and transverse process of the lumbar vertebrae, so right back here. And notice those are the ones that are connected, not the ones that float, right? The hip hike with the hanging foot, that's when you do like the thing where you get your hips like do this.
Whoa.
That's part of those muscles too. Yeah. That's like if I just do one of them. Stabilize the thorax for diaphragm movement, right? So if we're stabilized, our back stays in the same place. It helps our diaphragm move. That's what it's for, right? So it doesn't actually compress your viscera to push things out. Your back doesn't do that. It stabilizes itself. Okay? Yep, that's an important thing to know. And it stops the viscera from pushing backward because it's compressed, right? So it's like another hard posture thing. And so the breath support exists from the antagonism of both muscle groups, like holding an arm out, right? So, like, if I hold my arm out, there is tension in this, right? I'm not doing this, that's too much tension. But I have to have some kind of tension to have breath support.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's basically what that means. Good, all right. That's all I wanted to talk about today. Unless you guys want to go through breathing techniques.
I feel like that's gonna be a whole other thing.
Let me see how long it is. No, it's really long, okay. Good, so let's do that next time, okay? Alright, so this stuff is in the McCoy book, in the chapter on respiration. You guys should read that chapter at some point. Because he goes through, he doesn't tell you like all the origin insertion stuff and go through and explain it. He explains it in his own way and how it relates to things, okay? So it would be good for you to have like another viewpoint of how it happens so that you can get that information. And then we can talk about it more in class too, okay?
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Oh, and you guys can have marshmallow if you want.
You'll love.
I honestly can't move any part of my body without it.
Yeah, apparently.
Is this good?
Thank
Did
you.
you have something like this? No, you don't do it by cakes, it's, some people want shakes.
I don't know why no one else is moving as quickly as I. Already, people.
I know, sorry. I'm not sorry.
Oh, yeah. I guess. Man, I haven't been marking on that. You took it as an Easter thing.
You also this is on the slides. Yellow.
You literally can't say his name. You can't even say his name without me laughing. You know, sometimes I'm like sitting at home thinking about it. Because that's what you say.
I'll just put up, we have to
You look super
That's real immature.
I couldn't stop laughing. I didn't realize that you were there.
It's a combination of my favorite. Thank you, Chris.
Okay. Haven't met you one time now.
You also have
Nobody eats him either. Share him with him.
good fat. We want to yeah. Weight loss just encourage fat. But especially if you go to meetings.
I mean, I can only, this is.
Yeah, every time I eat one,
It's a lot.
do you throw me one?
I love the way it makes my throat feel.
Okay, ready? Cheers, thank you.